Hello everyone and welcome back to PSGL Mexico highlights here, in this race is going to be a bit juicy. I can already tell you that. As you can see, we're in Q3 on our first run here. We're on new sets of tyres, so the first lap should be fairly competitive. Mexico's a very difficult track to nail, especially the first sector, as you're going to see in about 10 seconds time at the end of this pit straight. The first sector is very difficult, very technical with the curbs and the racing line that you need to take to maximize the potential of the track limits here. So blasting down to turn 1, looking to brake on the left hand side, down into 4th gear initially, but now on the left hander, this is what's critical, getting over this curb nice and smoothly, hitting the second apex there as well, and on the power. But Mexico is very difficult because you have the long straights of the first sector and the tight, twisty, technical sections of the middle and last sectors alike. Today, I've gone for what is quite a high downforce setup compared to the other drivers on the grid anyway. Mainly focus on the ability to maximize the car's potential in the middle and last sector. Of course, sacrificing some performance in the first sector as well, but we're not showing a full potential as we're saving that up for Formula 1 esports later in the year. So 55.9 in the middle sector. That was actually pretty good. That was only about a tenth off my PB for this time in the session. For the final sector, Wilson Hughes goes a 15.3 through the right hander up to 4th gear. Make sure we get a smooth transition on the power. And you can see we go to a 14.7 for the first run on this setup. That was pretty good, I have to say. Now the final run in Q3. This is where the cards on the table, the chips are down, as you might like to say, out of the final corner, building up power, using up the longest distance on the track to build up momentum, speed on to the pit straight, opening up DRS. You can see we're already minorly gaining on the delta in the top right. So turn 1, looking to brake on the left-hand side of the track. Around 60-70 meters, you're going to be hitting the brake as hard as you can down to 4th gear. Make sure the car's in the middle of the track for left-hander. Short shift to 5th to keep the car stable through the right-hander. Over the curb, you see got a little bit of a snap of oversteer, will cost us a little bit of time, but we're only minorly down on the delta, so it's been a good first sector. Brake on the right-hand side. Brake just after the 100-meter board, down to 4th gear. Use up the curb on the inside and use up the curb again, but do not use all the curb, as curb on the inside is a little bit more raised and will unsettle the car. Through the right hander, make sure you pick up a sweet exit using up all the road. Bring the car back over to the right hand side. Now keep it in the 6th gear, throw it in for the stability. Do not use up all the curb on the right hand side, the car will bottom out. Now try and keep the car as flat as possible through this right hander. If you nail it, it is completely flat out. You can see now 0.7 up on the delta, and 833 in the middle sector down to 5th gear. Rotate through, you can see, making sure we do not overheat these rear tyres. Through the hairpin now, keep the car rotated nice. Up to 4th gear, over the curvy inside. You can see we lost about half a tenth through there, but the cars are a lot more cooler than they were before, so I get a better run out of the final quarter. You see go 0.5 up on the delta, and that is a 14.717. And that was a pretty competitive lap time compared to the times we were doing in practice, but you can see that puts us 7th on the grid. The strategy here today is going to be between the mediums and the hard starting tyre. You can see we are going to be going for the hard tyre, much like pretty much everyone on the grid, because the hard tyre to the medium tyre strategy
I just wanted to see how people would
is
react.
Definitely the more superior one here for playing the long term. If you want to start in the mediums, you're going to gain a lot of track position at the start, but risking losing potential later in the race. You can see now on the grid, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights, lights out, and away we go. You can see we pick up probably the best start on the grid out of anyone. See Lucas Blakely picks up a poor start, all things considered, and you can see actually have to avoid him picking up wheel spin as we go over to the left hand side. Now in the slipstream of the cars ahead, Jarno is basically pushing me down the straight. In fact, he is actually pushing me down the straight, down to turn 1, going around the outside of Lucas Blakely. You see he locks up and makes wheel-to-wheel contact with us, pushing us a bit wide. You see we actually cut the corner on the inside as avoiding action, as we do not want to get involved in any tangles through turn 1, turn 2 and turn 3. See, we've got a nice little gap behind us now and a little bit of a gap in front. You can see I say that was a bit harsh because that was a bit of wheel contact, but that's lap 1. Stuff happens, you know. People are locking up into turn 1, so you know, it's part of racing, and now we keep our head down, hard focus. See, Wilson and Lucas are going side by side up ahead.
We'll let Jarno go when we get there. He's on better tyres.
And you can see me saying, I'm going to let Jarno go because he's on the medium compound tyres. There's no point fighting him at this stage in the race. Wilson Hughes is on the hard tyres, and as well Jake Benham behind us, who is right behind Danny Bresnay right now, is also on the medium compound tyres. So they're going to be flying right up behind us. See, up behind Wilson, we have a little bit of a cheeky dive bomb down into the hairpin. See if we can scare him off the track. See if we can make up any more positions on lap 1. But you can see Wilson holds his nerve around the outside. But now we got Jarno and Jake Benham right up behind us. So you can see we pull over to the left-hand side of the straight. Yeah, Jarno go straight away. And you can see we've got Jake Benham right behind, who's pressing all of his battery down the straight. So you can see we hug the white line and show Jake that we're not going to fight him. We're going to let him go as well. And you can see we even lift early to show that there's no point to fight. So you can see going for the switchback, just trying to maximize my exit out of turn 3. As when we're letting cars pass, we do not really want to fight and lose any time at all, because that time can be more valuable later in the race. But skipping on to lap 5, you can see we've done a good job of managing the gap ahead. We're good on the battery, we're good on the tyres right now. See, Wilson Hughes is actually flashing on his battery right now, so he's been pushing exceptionally hard. But right now, unfortunately, Lucas is actually going to have his game crash and disconnect from the session up ahead, what means there's a bit of confusion, and his car is meant to be ghosted, but it's not. And you can see there's a bit of confusion with Wilson, and I hit the back of Wilson.
I'm going to lift. I'm not going to overtake you on that straight, on this straight. It was complete confusion what cost us there, of course. Lucas being disconnected. Is Lucas disconnected?
And you can see me saying to Wilson, I'm not going to overtake him on this straight, even though I could have because I have better battery potential. It's not respectful if you hit the car in front to overtake them on the next straight. You can see, though, I was expecting Wilson to use the gap around the outside. You can see he's looking around the outside, and I expect him to get on the power hard and go around the outside of the AI car. But he lifts a little bit on the exit of the corner. He didn't do anything wrong. I didn't really do anything wrong. It was just a bit of a misjudgment. But now, because of Lucas' disconnection, Wilson has dropped out of the DRS of Jake Benham up ahead, and that means I've got 70% battery and 1.7 seconds, so I've got to gain 7 tenths to a medium compound tyre runner.
We can work together here, man.
To get back in that DRS. If I do not get back in the DRS zone, our race for the win is effectively over, and we're going to be scrapping for the low end of the top 10. So now the pressure's on, and we have to close in that now 1.4 second gap. We've got a bit of battery to do so the potential is there, but this is race critical to gain that gap back right now. You can see now, skipping on to lap 11, we see we have got the gap down, but we're on 15% battery. We've used up all of our battery to get there, so now we have to really focus hard to save this battery and get this battery potential back up to 50-60% even before the pit stop window, to give us a chance to undercut, overcut, and whatever strategy we think is best for the moment to execute perfectly and deploy. Lap 17, you can see now the medium runners are starting to struggle a little bit. I think Jarno has already made his pit stop. As you know, Jarno is up ahead still, my mistake, and you can see Jake and Jarno are struggling a little bit on the medium compound tyres. The hard tyres are still feeling pretty fresh. We've got 46% on the battery. We decide to go into the pit lane, and you can see that is going to be a very, very aggressive undercut. We're going to be going just as long on these medium compound tyres as we did on the hard compound tyres. In fact, going into the pit stop, you can see a nice optimal 2.2, and you can see Jarno is going to be about 1.5 seconds ahead of us, and this is critical as well because we've got our battery back up to 70% leaving the pit lane, so we have a good potential on the battery to use. We have fresh medium compound tyres. Actually, it's not 1.5, it's going to be 2 seconds to Jarno, and we're already pulling a bit of that battery. What's critical right now is those hard tyres are going to take much longer to warm up than my fresh medium compound tyres. I'm going to be gaining so much time to Jarno on my better tyres right now. You can see it's already down to 1.5 seconds. We gained half a second in that first complex corners alone. And you can see what our game plan is to catch Jarno, getting his DRS by the pit finish straight, get my words out eventually, and then we can fly past him on the straight as well. You can see now we are officially in the DRS zone of Jarno, up ahead, and now open up the DRS, and this is critical. We've got to gain another few tenths in this final sector to maximize our potential on the straight. Ideally, we do not want to be using any battery on the straight. We want to just be using the DRS alone, save our battery for battling potential later in the race. You can see right on the back of Jarno, and we're going to be getting a fantastic exit. I think Jarno knows there's not really much point in fighting us, and you can see Wilson Hughes does the fastest lap of the race. We do the purple middle sector as well, and you can see using a bit of battery just to ensure that we're clear ahead of Jarno before the breaker zone. We've got Jake Benham on the cold hard tyres as well. You can see how much time we gain on the breaker zone. We think about going around this outside, but that's not time efficient for either of our races. We just make sure we pick up the best exit possible, and now we're flying past Jake Benham. We've got the DRS open. Jarno's in our slipstream, and we have to make sure he doesn't go for a move.
Thank you.
And you can see Jarno doesn't do anything. He doesn't go for a move. I think he knows it's not worth it to cost himself race time. It's not worth it to cost me race time as well. So clearly very smart thinking by Jarno there. But you can see Tomek has come out of the pit stops ahead. So effectively, we are now P4 on track, but with fresh medium tyres, what are warmed up, full potential in these tyres right now. You can see we are gaining a lot of time to Tomek, who's now on cold mediums. We do not have the DRS zone though, neither does Tomek. What's critical for us, you can see we're losing time, we're out of battery on the straight, looking to the outside, dive round, down to the inside, fake the fact that we're going to go around this outside, switch the inside line, and you can see pick up the better traction, and that is maneuver done. You can see we initially looked around the outside, faked him to make him think that we're going to try to go on the outside, darted to the inside and darted to the inside again, and that was move done. But now lap 31, he's in my DRS zone, attacking me down to the inside, and see he's going to go late on the brakes, and he actually hits us in the middle of the corner, and then you see there's more and more contact, bit more wheel-to-wheel contact, pushing me off the track there, and you can see we go around the outside.
He's trying to kill me, man.
And you can see my live comments.
My ass.
You can see we've got an illegal overtake warning. So now I have to give back the position in the middle of the corner. And now we're going to dive back up the inside into the right hand. Really rough racing between myself and Tomek. But you know, an eye for an eye. And he did hit me into turn 1. So we have to return the favour. See, now with a slow motion replay, we leave the space on the inside of the apex for turn 1, but you can see he's just going for my car. He's just driving straight towards my car. He's not even locked up from what I can see. So he was using my car as a brake effectively. And you can see now there's more wheel-to-wheel contact into turn 2 and now into turn 3. But this is rough racing. You're going to get as good as you give with me. If you push me off the track or you try to be aggressive, I'm going to be aggressive in return. So there wasn't a stewards inquiry, and this is how I like racing to go: rough and rumbling on the track, and you can sort it out like a gentleman off the track, where we can do a handshake or a virtual handshake because it's online and jobs are good. But you can see now lap 32, safety car is deployed at the last moment possible. You can see we go into the pit lane, but we decide to go a bit too late.
I cut the pit lane. I cut the pit lane line. I have to stay out.
Initially in PSGL, I thought the rule was that you can abort the pit lane exit,
I decided to box too
like
late.
you can in real life.
It's not worth it.
But you can't. I double checked the rulebook after the race and says once you're committed to pit lane entry, cutting the exit line is prohibited. So that's completely my mistake. I clearly didn't read the stewards ruling clearly before the race, so I have no one else to blame but myself. So I take that on my shoulders. I'm not going to act like a baby about it and throw my toys out the pram. It's racing, stuff happens, I make mistakes, everyone makes mistakes, and now it's time to move on because it's the safety car restart. And you can see now we're trying as hard as possible to get tyre temperature, but the game has a limiting factor. I don't understand fully why it has this, but you can't go fully on the throttle when you're on the safety car restart. So now you can see Bari, who's leading this race, actually pulls away, and I'm trying to go on the power, but you can see my throttle indicator line, the green line, is flickering because the game is not letting me get on the power more than I want to be. So naturally that means there's a 4/10 gap to Frederick Rasmussen, there's a 4/10 gap behind us, so it kind of dulls down the safety car restarts that you're not really able to do anything on them. And you see me laughing because everyone's weaving. But now we're going to be skipping on to the final lap of the race. You can see we very much just settled it into our own flow here. We let the top two go off and do their own thing. I wanted to focus on making sure Jarno could contain my slipstream because I knew there was going to be soft runners behind me, behind Jarno as well. So it was easier and better for my race as well if Jarno was behind me on the hard compound tyres, because if people are on the soft compound tyres, there'll be a bigger threat to me.
Mercedes on hards, being caught by a driver on soft tyres on the final lap of a race. Championship contenders. What is this? I've seen that before.
As you see me having a little bit of fun, a little throwback to 2021 Abu Dhabi, a bit of controversy, you know, gotta add it in. But you can see coming across the
Let's
line,
get it. That was a good one.
we were P3 across the line, but with the 5-second penalty from the steward, what was completely fair, we dropped down to P8. But overall, a very positive Mexican Grand Prix for us. We showed good pace, showed good competitiveness, showed good tyre saving. And after all, this is all preparation for F1 esports later in the year. So, any lesson that we can take going forward with pit lane entries or strategies or slipstreaming or battling is all welcome. So I'm very happy with how this race turned out. Even if we did get a 5-second penalty and drop us down out of the podium, that's racing. Stuff happens. But everyone, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe and comment what you thought of the racing. Until next time though, have an amazing day, have an amazing night wherever you are in the world. And I will catch you guys and girls next time. Grazie, ciao, ciao.